Hello YouTube. So we got the radiator in from Speedway and I got it in there. Put the rubber boots on the bottom there. Put one right there, one right there. And then here's the upper radiator hose. We had to go from 1.5 to 1.25. So I got one of those couplers in there. And then I put a 1.25 to 1.25 barb coupler thing in here with 1/8 inch MPT, and I got this 90-degree 1/8 inch MPT, and this hose don't reach. This is a 1/4 inch hose. They didn't have none down at the parts store. I bought this for a lawnmower fuel line, and it was long enough to reach the one. Chris had the Motorsports knockoff eBay version in there, and it leaked something fierce. So we got a stock truck one at the junkyard, and now this don't reach all the way over there to where it needs to reach. So on this one, the stock one, it typically comes up, goes into the throttle body, through the throttle body, out the throttle body, and then comes up to a port up here somewhere. But yeah, so we have to get a longer 1/4 inch hose, and then the fill is over there, and our overflow is over here. So we're gonna have to get some 5/16 inch hose to go up across, and I'm gonna make some braces that come over, and we'll use some wire loom and just zip tie it to those braces to go over there to the overflow. And then the lower radiator hose on this one, it slants up like that, which is pretty cool. But that's 1.75 inches, 1.75 inches, 1 3/4. And that 1.5 inch hose, I didn't make it fit on there. But it comes up. And then I couldn't find a hose with the right bends to go there, so I put a coupler in there and just cut this piece. This is just for a regular truck 5.3, and that would come off of his Chevy small block, Gen 1 small block Chevy that was in here before. Same with this. And then again, that's just off the truck hose. So it's a mix matched small block Chevy hoses and the truck hoses. But yeah, that's where we're at. So today, what I'm going to do is we're going to run an oil drain. And what I'm going to do, there's a bolt hole right here, and I'm going to run it straight down through there. That should be far enough. We'll zip tie it down there to the motor mount or something, but that should be plenty far enough away from the exhaust that it shouldn't hurt that. But that's going to run down through there like that, down beneath the motor mount, and then go back to the plug back there, and it'll come out right here in this little groove. So we're going to run that. We're going to build some brackets for the radiator. Now I'm going to use 90s on both sides. So I bolted them up to the fittings, and I just pushed them in here. I measured the size I need right there. We'll make a cut there, and then we'll put them together. Yeah, I put those on both sides, and I ran the line like I wanted it ran, with the clips and everything, and where I'm going to zip tie it to, and then measured it out. That's where we're going to cut it. Alright, already cut it. Once I cut it, I put this piece on, and I took the tape off, and then this little metal piece goes around the plastic piece under the frayed part. Make sure you get it all the way up against, butted up against that little ledge. Like that right there. And then we'll stick that down inside there. And that goes down there just like that. And you bring this up and you screw these together. And it gets really tight. And there it started to get tight. So what I do is I just take 2 big crescent wrenches and hold one side and screw the other. If I had a vise, I'd put this in. They make special tools for this, but I don't have any. But if you had a vise, you could put it in a vise, then screw that side. But I just hold one side with a crescent wrench and spin the other side until I get it as tight as I can get it, or until these two butt together. And sometimes they won't butt together no matter how tight you get it. Sometimes there'll be a little gap there, and sometimes there won't, but we'll tighten those up. Alright, there we go. As tight as it'll go. You should be able to grab this and grab that and pull as hard as you can, and it shouldn't come out there. So now we'll just do the other side the same way. Alright, got it all done. Ta-da! But anyway, I've noticed putting this piece on, putting this on with this on the turbo, you can't get in there. You can't get in there. So what I'm going to do is I marked this before, that marker. I'm going to put it back where I had it marked at. It's about right there. Eyeballing it from under the car. Then I'm going to tighten this up on this. I'll just hold it with vice grips and use a crescent wrench here. Just make sure you don't hold the vice grips over the edge and burr the edge up. I got her on there good and tight. Now we'll just put her back in for the final fitting. Well, that worked out pretty good. There it is. See, I use those two screws to bolt it in. And it comes out that hole right there. You can see it. Get you lower. Out of that hole right there. It comes around right there underneath the exhaust. And look, I made it the perfect length that it would bow out a little right there. But I'm gonna put a wire loom over top of that, and I'm gonna zip tie it to the motor mount. I don't think it'll go anywhere. Yeah. It's in there good. That's enough room. That's enough room, it ain't gonna hurt anything. Yeah, now we just need the oil feed line. We'll be good on this part. Alright, so our cheap little bracket for our alternator, the pulley was riding off of it about that far. I know it's off right now, but that's about how far off it was. Actually, maybe it wasn't even that much. It was just a little. About like that. Where my thumb's at. So we're going to put a couple of washers. Oh, I'm probably making y'all dizzy. Back here on these two studs where it goes through and lines it up to push that out. So I'm thinking those two washers on it, they're the same thickness, just like that. Should push it out just enough, and those should still be long enough to go through them holes to hold it straight. Alright, I had to try some different combinations because over here it was so big it would hit that work side thing. But I think that'll do it. There's a little bit of space on that side. And a little bit of space on this side. You can see it. Here's a better view. It was riding off the front by a good amount. I need a little bit thinner washers, but at least now it's not riding off of that. Yeah, it's close to the edge, but yeah, we're not off of it. We're right on the edge of it, and it'll be okay right there. I got some little thinner washers. I'm gonna put those in. Alright, that's definitely good. I'm not even going to check it again. I've been having to start it to check it. Those washers are a little bit thinner, so we'll see what that does once we get it. The oil feed ran. I hate spinning that turbo without an oil feed on it, which the car only runs for a few seconds anyway, but still. Plus it's squirting out transmission fluid. I don't want that. Alright, let's make some brackets for the radiator, and then we'll do something with these wastegates to make them point where we want them to point to run our lines. Alright, took some sheet metal, Cut them with an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel. I bent them with 2 pairs of pliers. Sometimes I use the grooves in my workbench too. I'll stick them down in there. Stick it down in the hole and then bend it. It'll bend. But anyway, we're going to measure where we need to put the hole, drill the hole, and cut these edges off a little bit shorter and round the edges off. Cut the backs off a little shorter. And then see how they fit, and then we'll paint them. Alright, there we go. There's our brackets. They may not be perfect to work. I was going to put one here, but that bolt I had, it didn't fit that. So just 2 on the outside. And that's plenty enough to hold the radiator. Oh. Now we're going to paint those and let them dry. We're going to mess with these wastegates a little bit. Another good thing about that is the bolts hold it on the back. It's not enough to hit the radiator part, but it's enough to hit this fin part. And the bracket holds it on the front. And then something else I was doing. We need boost pressure to go to the bottom of these wastegate ports. The bottom wastegate port. There's a top and bottom wastegate port. But this is the cable throttle body. It has one sticking out here. It had an electric throttle body on it. Well, the electric throttle body don't have it there. It has it on the intake itself. So I just plugged that one. But air goes straight through there and out that hole, and then it usually goes to the valve cover right there. That's your in air for the PVC system. People think that's a vacuum. It's not. It's in air. It blows straight from the intake through that hole up there. See it? And comes out. Well, on this throttle body it would have come out there, but on this intake it comes out there. See? Right there. In air for the PCV system. So you get the in air, it goes in there. That puts fresh, good air in the crankcase. And then your PCV, I get those backwards, is right here. And then that connects to vacuum. And vacuum controls that little valve and pulls it out. That's the way your PCV system works. But what we're going to do is we're going to plug that vacuum hole. We're going to put a grommet in there with a 10AN, and we're going to run those to the catch can like we had them before, to a filtered catch can. Come off of that, and then I got a little 90 MPT, 1/8 inch MPT to whatever that was. And screwed that on there, and I'll put a push lock in there. Went around the intake, down and around, and we'll go over to the other side. All right, on the other side we go down, and then the bottom of the wastegate, we split it, and I made that nice and tight so it can't bounce around or move any. And then straight down there. That's how I clock them. All right, here we go. We wired up the top of the wastegate right there, and then this will go to our MAC valves. So the way these work, and we got our wastegate pressure sensor. This will measure our dome pressure. But anyway, the way these work is you have a diaphragm right there. This boost pressure will come in, and it'll help open this, which opens this valve. When that valve opens, the boost pressure comes up and then goes out your wastegate downpipe. And when you got an 8-pound spring, with pressure going to the bottom, I don't know, it should make 6 to 8 pounds boost. If you take this pressure away with an 8-pound spring, you'll make 12 to 16 pounds of boost. We got a 5-pound spring in here. When you're running onboard air or CO2, you usually run a 3 to 5 pound pressure or spring. And what happens is you still got the boost pressure coming in here trying to open this diaphragm, but now you got onboard air or CO2 going into the top to try to hold that diaphragm down to keep the valve from opening, which increases your boost. Now, how much pressure it takes to make a certain amount of boost just depends on your spring, and all vehicles are a little different, it seems, but this one with the 5-pound spring it makes 3 or 4 pounds of boost with boost pressure coming to the bottom. So when you add 10 pounds of dome pressure from the CO2 or onboard air, it makes 12 to 13 pounds of boost with that 5-pound spring. But you can also do manual boost controllers just to control the pressure on the bottom, which all they do is they bleed pressure off, which is like my 96 Camaro has with the 5.3 if y'all follow the channel. But it bleeds the pressure off. You know, the less pressure coming to the bottom trying to open it, the more boost you make. But with onboard air or CO2, it adds pressure to the top to help keep it closed. And how much pressure you add and how much boost you get, it's just all going to depend on the spring you got and your setup. It'll be a little different for everybody. But here's our Mac valves. They're just cheap Amazon Mac valves. But what'll happen is the onboard air or CO2 will come in here. These will be plugged. And don't make the mistake I made. I thought these were plugs that came with them. They're not. They're filters. So I have to buy some plugs for there. But what it'll do is the onboard air or CO2, and this is be the increased solenoid. The ECM will control how much pressure goes to the top of the wastegate. If it sees too much, it'll energize this decreased solenoid and it'll come out and go through that. That's a filter. That's not a plug, that's a filter. And then these two will be plugged. And then this will go up and around and right there, which controls the top of our wastegates, and this will tell the ECM how much pressure is inside here, you know, to control if it should be energizing the increase or the decrease solenoid. It'll energize these back and forth to maintain the pressure that you set in the ECM for your dome pressure. So we'll go in here, it'll fluctuate this one, send it out. If it sees too much pressure in that sensor we have in the wastegate, it'll energize this one, it'll shoot out this hole. And that's the way that's going to work. We just got to figure out a place to wire, to hang this and run the onboard air to this one, and wire this up for our increase and wire this one up for our decrease. Gotta go get some 1/8 inch MPT plugs. Let's take the Camaro for a ride. I ain't drove it in a while. Take it for a little ride down the road. It's only about 2 or 3 miles. Yeehaw! Nah, I've been going about an hour. Old girl does good, as always. And there's what we got for we got some hose for the overflow, for the steam ports, some wire loom, because we got to wire our wastegate. Yeah, we'll get her done. Alright, now I got some actual plugs. We'll put some of this thread tape on there and we'll plug those up. Really don't feel like getting under the dash right now, so went ahead and ran the steam port pipe all the way around there. My filter, one thing I like about this radiator, it's flat and the entryway is flat. I can use that to burp it. So you just fill it up, you make this the highest part, push that down, make this the highest part of water, which the other highest part will be right there. And then it'll actually try to force the air out of it. And when you run it, it'll definitely force the air out of it if you keep that high. So once we get it started, that's how we'll burp the system. And I guess during winter, I'll have to figure out how to drain the blocks on these things, because we're just going to run water in it. But yeah, we're going to run the overflow from there over to this overflow can. Alright, got the overflow. I had to heat that side up just to get it on. Zip tied there, across through there. And that hose fits tight, so I don't need no screw clamps for that. It's not under really any pressure anyway. Alright, put some wire loom on our oil drain all the way down through there in case it wants to try to touch on metal. I'll get some zip ties on it. I'll put one here, and next time I get under the car, probably when we put the diaper on it, I'll put another zip tie down at the very bottom. Alright, we're down here on the floorboard the passenger side. I used one bolt up there. It goes through and tightens on the other side. And then I used some Velcro and sticky back, which works really good. And then I ran the hose up there and out the firewall. And it comes out of the firewall over there behind here. Loops around, goes into there, and it goes into the top of that wastegate. It goes over there and goes in the top of that one.
And now we just got to wire up the wastegate pressure sensor and our 2 MAC valves, and that's going to be the next video. And thanks for watching. Y'all have a great day.